there was a relation here. I think there's an echo coming from somewhere. Not sure who. Let's see. Testing, testing, testing.
It's clear now.
Okay, I'm not hearing it now. Yeah. So the question arose when Damrado and Kishan were having a chat about it was about a friend whom to drifted away a bit, and there was some malicious gossip somewhere around that friend. So the original reaction to the situation was, hey, I don't mind, we'll take a hike. But then Kishan's question to Dhammarato was, what would the Buddha do in this situation?
Always
so,
a good question.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
So
I got the
Dhammarato
credit there.
brought together a collection of 6 suttas, in which there are varying situations where the monk or friend or someone in contact with the Buddha maybe said something conflicting with the teachings, in which there was worthy cause for like the monks bringing the person to the Buddha and the Buddha bringing it up. Now, I'm not familiar enough to give the specifics in depth of each sutta, but one example, or I guess maybe I can just read off the numbers here. I have them listed, and if you're interested in the future, or if Danny's familiar at all with any of them, or any of you are, maybe you could give a little bit. But if you guys are at all interested, this is on recording, so you can look them at in the future. The suttas were Majjhimānikāya 12, Lion's Roar 38, about Sati, son of a fisherman, 22, Simile of a snake 48, 86, and 61, Advice to Rahula. So they were all in suttas in which conflict was brought up. And the Buddha addressed it in most, or I think in all of them, and the conversation was about how to address it and why he addressed it and the different ways in which he addressed it. So in for example, I think it was the first sutta about the lion's roar that the monk that was brought there was less familiar, or the Buddha knew that there was no bringing him back. So it was more of a teaching point made about the student, in which he was a bit more harsh in the way he called the monk out in his misbeliefs. But yes, the question then would be, after talking about those suttas, can we develop this Sangha where we do all have a certain connection together rather than, hey, let's take a hike if there is some conflict, where there is a certain friendship? Can that happen online? And if so, how is that done?
Great question. Great question. And so what happened next?
So the discussion was then about, I think I was then prompted, and then I brought up the point about, I think it was then, or it might have been later, that there's a difference between, it was kind of just bringing up the differences between online Sangha and in-person Sangha, and how when you're in person, you have consistent, maybe planned or unplanned interaction with friends that allow those relationships to develop. Say for the monks, it might be going on Bindabat or them all eating together, or there's just some consistent observation, or with Achan Po welcoming Dhammarato or bringing him food to his kuti. So situations like that. And those don't necessarily arise naturally online. In the essence of what this is, especially where we were all conversating with Dhammarato, now that we have these weekly Sangha calls that has been developed more. Yeah, so that was the first point brought up about is it possible to develop online Sangha? And then there might have been a little more discussion. I think that was the primary point brought up. I think Christopher mentioned how it is possible for some of us to meet each other in person, and that has been done.
Great.
Yeah. If there are any questions or anyone has anything to say now, you can go ahead.
Since that call, people got together?
No, just in general.
אני בחדר שלי.
What was that?
That with someone maybe speaking to someone else. I think Ron may have gotten some attention from elsewhere.
Yes,
Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcome to you. We're just talking about a conversation that took place a few days back regarding the nature of this online Sangha. And an important point comes to mind for me, Parker, as you're mentioning whether or not it's possible to form those strong bonds. My feeling has always been that the strongest bonds are formed when we're speaking about the deep Dharma stuff. There is something to be said for breaking bread with one another. But I break bread with lots of people. I feel closer to you lot than I do that lot. Because we talk about all this deep and meaningful stuff together. So my feeling on that would be that we can form a very strong Sangha here online, and that, to use one of Dhammarato's favorite phrases, the mixed bag, is that we don't get to do all of that other stuff together, but what we get in exchange is the convenience of dialing in anytime, joining the US call, the UK call, the EU call. We can shoot one another a message anytime. We don't have to congregate at a monastery. We congregate here in our living rooms. And so we can kind of engineer everything else around that to our convenience. So I think there's probably pros and cons. But those are my initial thoughts. Does anyone else have anything to share?
Yeah,
Oh, people want to share. Goodness. I have been thinking about how as these calls get larger with more participants, we're going to have to come up with some kind of system because, when more than one person speaks at a time on video call, there's one thing that's very different to being in a physical space. Oh, look, Rick's put his hand up.
Yeah, leave it to the teacher to know how to deal with multiple students online, right?
Virtual talking.
Right now, I see Ray's hand. So, okay, well, we've gone ahead and solved that problem very quickly. Oh, here's Ron as well. Yeah. It's Dag and Nora. Yeah, Rick's back. Goodness me.
Whoever does it first gets to speak.
So, Rick, you were first.
So just on a quick point about what you mentioned, that you said you feel most connected when we're speaking of sort of these, the deeper practice, the deeper understanding of the Dhamma, etc. And it came to my mind that, the breaking bread and all of the other sort of social niceties might in fact just be a bit of a preamble to that, right? So we're just getting right to it. We're just eschewing the whole rest of it and just getting right to, okay, this is 3 hours in to a dinner party where
Right.
it's like, let's clear it out. It's like, okay, no food, no, just boom. Okay, right to the core of it.
Yeah.
It's my idea about that, right? We're just cutting out the chaff, I guess.
Love it.
Anyway.
Great. Yeah. Ron?
I just want to raise my hand.
You're just testing it out? Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
And Dago, Nora, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, at least my experience is that today with the technology that we have with especially with the video calls, of course, not everything that you could convey in a personal conversation will come across, but the very important features of the tone of the voice and especially the facial expressions and everything, it can come across. And that's a very, I think, already very important elements of the whole thing. So my experience is that it can actually get quite intimate, and I think that's one of the things that makes it worth trying out how well it works over time.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we'll often talk on voice, won't we, Doug? And we have these wonderful conversations, and
yeah,
that we've removed the visual element there. So I certainly think the game is worth the candle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Parker, one more thing to maybe add or ask you about. Towards the end of the video, or the end of the, chat, you guys, it's a chat video. You guys were playing around or discussing the idea of constructive criticism. Remember that word came up? Could you speak to that just a minute? Because it was sort of tacked at the end, but it still seemed very important as far as its place in the Sangha and things like that. So could you refresh my memory, or maybe tell everyone kind of where that part of the conversation went?
Yeah, definitely. So there was so the kind of event that prompted the discussion was providing someone constructive criticism and whether or not it was possible to do or worthy of trying to do or not, and what environment that is done in. So part of the talk was about this was something I didn't talk about, is so Dhammarato gave two situations up to which he had learning moments in the past with the importance of Sangha as a monk. The first was at Suan Mok, Wat Suan Mok, when there was a situation where he was saying something in the realm of mischievous gossip about another monk. And he had a party of, I think it was maybe 13 monks, visit his kuti and address the situation. And that was, I think he said, scary at the time, but he was very thankful for that situation because he learned a lot from it. And the importance of in Sangha not gossiping about each other or not talking bad to other monks, because that holds everything together and prevents cracks from within. So the second situation then that he brought up was it might have been at Wat Greensboro, Rick, but with a monk that joined him, and then in conversation, I think, with another monk at the Wat, there was some disagreement about the beliefs of rebirth. And
yeah, I actually remember this very situation. Like, I was not in on it, but I know a bit about that whole situation. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so you might be able to share more if I miss some important parts. But there was
I would like if you guys expanded on that as well.
discussion. There was some discussion on Yahoo about the other monk criticizing the Dhammarato's teachings. I think it might have been specifically about rebirth. And then a layperson at the Wat identified that, and this eventually brought, I think it was a Sangha Necessa, where there was, or something of the like, a ceremony of the like, where Dhammarato and the other monk had to, or there was a 30-minute ceremony or something, where the other monk was giving offerings or something. I'm not aware of the specifics of the details of the ceremony, but it was a ceremony of forgiveness, where but it was a fairly large deal, and this there are certain things like that. There are certain formalities or traditions within Buddhism like that, which serve to kind of unify the group and make sure there aren't any like non-connections or things like that. Go ahead. If someone has anything to say, or
Yeah,
but yeah, that was the thing about. I can talk more about the original question. I don't know if that was covered directly in terms of what was the question, Rick, exactly?
Just the place that criticism, constructive criticism, will say has within the Sangha, and sort of the way it seemed that depending on who's offering it, how someone who isn't aware of their, let's say, incorrect speech or incorrect behavior could depending on where they are in their development, could actually express gratitude towards that, the insight about them and about their behavior, rather than taking offense and using it as either becoming defensive or just basically flying away. So yeah, that was sort of the, I mean, I hadn't thought of the example until you said it, but that was more or less what I gathered from that part of the talk. And then I don't know if it was Christopher, but someone mentioned it really depends on who's offering the criticism, how it's going to be taken, and that kind of thing. So it sort of went in that direction, but
I think part of that was whether or not the person is offering the criticism for a selfish reason. Say they don't like something someone else is doing, so they criticize it, or if it's coming from a place of trust and interest in the other person making progress in the Dhamma. And then there can be that trust there. Where the example then going back was Dhammarata was at first, the reaction was not gratefulness for the monk showing up at his doorstep, but now in retrospect, he can be very grateful for the lesson that was taught in that situation.
So, while we're here, there is just one thing you said that kind of caught my interest. So I wanted to ask, what are Dhammarato's beliefs and teachings when it comes to rebirth, and is that the same as like reincarnation? Because that's something where I'm not exactly sure where I stand on, and
no beliefs.
I'd just like to hear you guys' perspective.
No beliefs is the simple answer.
No beliefs.
No beliefs. No need for beliefs.
Yeah, I've heard him say directly that this question, what does he say, doesn't lead to edification. Doesn't lead you down the path. It might comfort you or your ego a bit as far as sort of understanding the cosmology of everything, but as far as the actual practice of it, he doesn't seem to.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong.
No, I'm not. No one's getting me wrong.
For comfort. It's
yeah.
Just,
oh, I know. But that's how I've interpreted his answer. It's just one of those questions that it may very well be unknowable, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. I just
regarding the distinction between reincarnation and rebirth is interesting, and I think that we're right away into the difficulties that come of translation. But what's really interesting is that the word birth shows up in Paticcasamuppada. Birth shows up as a step in that process of how the mind creates suffering. It's where we create identity. So the Buddha certainly taught about birth, but he wasn't talking about being born as a dog if you're a bad boy, being born as a king if you're a good boy. or he may have taught about that to some people at some time if that was their understanding. But the real juicy stuff, Teacher Samupada, he talks about birth in the sense of mental birth, birthing an identity. So that's always been quite comfortable for me.
Maybe Doug, did you want to say something, Doug?
Yeah, it was originally still to the topic before, but I can also kind of jump in here a bit, because I don't know if that's helpful at all, but I can kind of relate to this question of the rebirth or reincarnation, to pondering it. And so far I've always come back to, man, I have no direct evidence of so to say past lives or whatever in my direct experience, and since that's all that I ever have, it's not it's rather more or less useless to me. I've had moments where I felt like, oh, this certainly, at least for a while, felt quite different. So looking at things in a different way, and it kind of felt like, oh shit, this is a different life, even though everything looked the same. But yeah, as long as I don't have any real concrete evidence of it, I won't. I will treat it as a story, nothing more, nothing less.
Debbie was.
And that may be. Oh, go ahead.
As you described that, Doug. Debbie sat here by my side, and as you were describing that, she gave you the.
Thanks.
Yeah, sounds right on to me. And yet we see all this debate around the subject. Of course, debate can be fun, but things at least to get quite heated sometimes.
I think.
Did you have something to say on the? Oh.
I think
Olivia?
often people get caught up in these kind of debates and the nuance, don't they? And then they kind of forget why they're doing it in the first place, and they just kind of stray off in all these tangents, and it all just gets too intellectual in the end, and they forget the core practice.
Someone would do well, I think, to chime in the middle of those heated debates and say, "Hey guys, Dukkha Nirodha.
Be happy."
Yeah. And of course, Olivia, this can be seen anywhere that anyone's debating anything.
Oh, of course.
Right. Although I suppose you could make the argument that there's genuine reason within a profession for those debates to be had if they're, engaged in something intellectual. Perhaps they do need to try to get to the bottom of something. Or of course,
I suppose it's just doing it as long as it still has a concrete purpose. But when it doesn't, and you're just like spinning circles, then you need to be aware enough to stop, don't you?
Yeah. And as far as Buddhism goes, we do have this distinction between, quote, ordinary right view and noble right view. And the distinction can be subtle and hard to grasp. And so where some teachings include simplistic teachings on karma, encouragements to make merit. And indeed, why would we be making merit but to have a favorable rebirth? Well, we have that whole end of the teaching. And then we have the other end of the teaching where we're talking about things such as that the results of karma can be seen right now. And when we drill down, it becomes absurd to imagine the Buddha speaking about anything in the future at all. That seems very contradictory.
Yeah.
And then the whole karma reincarnation thing breaks down. So, as you said, Doug, direct experience That's certainly where I want to plant my flag. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the suttas that was mentioned was of the so there was a man who was he was, I think, seeking a woman to marry, or a man's son to marry. It His name started with an A. I don't remember exactly the Pali name, but the man asked, he um, did not want the man to marry his daughter, and so his challenge for him was to collect, I think it was the right pinkies of a thousand people. Um, so this is the story of the I guess this is the story that's usually referred to as like the murderer, that the Buddha was able to shift in his beliefs. But he had a necklace of the 1,000 or the pinkies that he collected, or the fingers that he collected. And the story then was that on the 999th pinky, or the man to be killed, coincidentally, he found the Buddha. And I think it was like maybe a one-line teaching that was written down. I'm not sure what exactly the conversation was, but the murderer, the man, eventually converted to being a monk. Um, and so the reason I brought this up is the connection to the previous conversation we were having, and the idea of karma, where at one point the monk was going on alms round to a village in which he had killed people in that village. And then he was attacked and beaten and thrown stones at. And when he came back to the monks, um, it was kind of the idea of karma. You get what you deserve for your actions, and not in a magical sense, but he killed people, and people get angry about that. And so he was attacked for that. And it was kind of just a um, response to it, as that was expected, or that's what the teaching was to the murderer by the monks.
Right.
So there is a sense of karma, but it is a very real karma, and it's very complex, and we can't really even say this direct action so far off caused this direct result. We can more say in this present moment, I cracked a joke and it made someone laugh, and that's a very direct version of karma. You don't need to go off into months in the future, years in the future, lives in the future.
Yeah. Or indeed, I murdered someone and I have actual blood on my hands.
Exactly.
Now I've got to clean it off.
Cause and effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to be able to get to the bottom of these things.
Can I give some historical perspective for a second?
Please, Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So let's take a look, and again, neither trying to deny or affirm the existence of like karma's effect over lifetimes or whatever, but if we look at like in India, the Vedas and the Brahmins, and how at the beginning, these priests would memorize these really, long chants and ceremonies. They committed to memory and everything. And the people that got to benefit from this were the wealthy, right? They were able to pay these priests, and and it didn't seem fair to the majority of the population that these wealthy merchants, who are oftentimes very corrupt, and were going to be the ones to sort of have the best afterlife. And so from a social construction perspective, they started to formulate the idea of karma as something that the actions of these people, the wicked actions of these people, would actually affect them, maybe not in this life, but in the next. So you can see just from a social need how this concept was generated during that time. And again, I'm just looking at it from that historical perspective, not trying to affirm or deny any of it. But I think when I learned about that, I thought it was very fascinating how you could not reduce it to that, but that's another way to see how the concept of it affecting over lifetimes may have originated, right?
And indeed, we see a very similar system in the Judeo-Christian tradition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that in most religions.
Control.
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
So, just that, very convenient for those who want to control. That's all I was going to say.
I think there was drowning out from someone else's audio.
I said very convenient for those who want to control.
Yes. And make money off that. That's a very high commodity. Wanting to live different lives and better lives. Another point that would be maybe worthy of being made is that any religion, when it comes into a society or any teachings, do have that past baggage. Dan, you briefly made that point. But it is a way of the Buddha, in talking about rebirth at some points, there's a way of meeting people where they're at or using the analogies they know.
Yeah.
We could also see this a little bit in that new religions kind of adopt the ideas of their current or of the place they're in. In Western Buddhism, there is sort of a focus on attainments, and conveniently in Western society, attaining things or having a means to an end is a very common idea.
Yeah.
But is there always I'm not sure, like in my experience, that it's always been about attainments, because it really depends on the community, because I've been like a member of like the Plum Village community for a while.
Oh, lovely.
And
yeah.
They really it's kind of the opposite, where they don't accept that anybody can get anywhere, kind of is kind
Very
of
killed
feeling,
those guys, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
and it's kind of this they have this whole like mentality there of like, we'll all reach enlightenment together, or else none of us will reach anything. So and so then it sort of breeds this like, okay, nobody goes anywhere thing.
Yeah.
But I think it really depends on the community too, and also just meditation groups that I've joined and things like that in the past. I think sometimes there's almost no emphasis on attainments at all. It's kind of like, that's just made up, like enlightenment's not possible.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my experience.
Great. Did Thich Nhat Hanh have a lot of influence over that entire community?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So he was very hands-on. It wasn't so much of a kind of, sometimes we see these communities under certain masters kind of franchise. You know what I mean? They seem more independent.
It's kind of broken up since he had a stroke. It's kind of definitely franchised in that way, and it's really weird. That's kind of why I just gave up on it, because it got so weird after.
Really?
He was the main like driving force and the person kind of keeping everybody sane and and together, as a group. But so they're definitely in like growing pains right now.
Well, it's got to be significant, right, when such a large organization loses its figurehead, and I know that he was very active as a teacher. I didn't know how much involvement he had with the running of the organization, but certainly a wonderful teacher. So it doesn't surprise me to hear that his community kind of got the right idea, at least for as long as that he was around. I don't know what's going on now.
There's still a lot of monks there that are really like, inspiring and doing a good job with the community and stuff. But it was more just the what I wanted to comment on is just this sort of like, I think Western Buddhism can be so different just depending on what contact you have with it. I mean, I've been with some Tibetan communities where I almost don't even recognize what's going on,
Right.
you know, because it's so unfamiliar to me,
Mhm.
and that. But definitely the Theravada tradition seems to have this emphasis on attainments, you know, and the asana goenka sort of,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I wanted to say real quick, you know, to get back to what we were talking about at the start about like, is it possible to like have these deep connections and stuff online? I just wanted to give my experience of like having online friends in other communities that, I mean, I've had like my best friend is somebody that I met online when I was like 15 or 16, and we've been friends for 15 or not, how long would that be? 17 years now.
Wow.
And that was before we had video chat. There was no way of like you were getting at it's you can see people's expression and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think key to our friendship has been that like there's been commitment. And I know Dhammarato talks about you have to have skin in the game, right? And like you have to be committed to like, okay, sometimes it's going to go down, sometimes it's going to go up. People are going to change. The whole community is going to change.
Mhm.
And there has to be like some sort of commitment there to it. And yeah.
Well, and indeed, we're fortunate in that regard because our commitment is to the Dharma.
Yeah.
And so, as long as we're each interested in the Dharma, then the Sangha remains. It's kind of self-perpetuating in that sense, I would say. As long as we're each, as long as we all have things to share each week, then coming together in this way is a no-brainer, right? So, and and we know that there's no shortage of need for the Dharma right now, and those who continue on the path always have time for anyone else, so that, you know, I think it kind of just perpetuates in that. Look at the amount of time that Dhammarato gives out to all comers. Anyone who wants to call up and chat about pretty much anything, he's just there smiling away, right? And so I see no reason for a Sangha not to thrive in whatever form.
Yes, oftentimes community have certain focuses, and you could say the focus of a Sangha is then the focus on friendship as the
Yeah.
focus, not a certain game or not a certain concept, but having friends that are focused on learning about friendship.
Right.
Makes wonderful friends.
Right, doesn't it? Yeah, and so we're free of contrivance in this way. Hey, Alex.
Hey guys.
Hey, Alex.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Hey, sorry I'm on late.
Don't worry.
You're good.
We're just talking about this, actually. We're talking about Sangha.
Great.
And how we really feel that it will be self-perpetuating. And the point that I just come to is that there's nothing to contrive in this setup. So that, as you said, Joe, people will change, a community as a whole will change. But the changing is kind of the name of the game already. So, you know, if you set up a community around a certain idea and that idea changes, now your community's in trouble, right? But there's no ideas here, so we're just fine. Yeah. How was your day, Alex?
Oh, it's been all right.
Okay.
It's been a little. Ugh.
Okay. You're in the right place.
Yeah, you're here now, so that's good.
Yeah. And Dag, I saw your stuff on Discord, man, and I just like, I feel for you, bro. When I read your stuff, Dag, I was like, And my stuff is like paradise compared to what it sounds like you're going through.
What
So-
are you referring to? I know I've written a lot of stuff there lately.
The support channel, and your recent post on the support channel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Deep in the murky waters lately.
Yeah. I don't know, like, it's weird. I guess right now things are somewhat okay.
Woohoo! Okay.
Yeah, right?
That's all we
Ooh,
need.
Okay. But like when I woke up this morning, they weren't. And I was determined to like do something about all that. I was gonna do some hardcore investigation and yeah, very ambitious, and investigate myself to self-realization. And here I am now, and things are somewhat okay. And I'm like, well, where did that go? Where did that complete dissatisfaction go? I can't find it now, so I can't do anything about it. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Was all my suffering for nothing? Yeah.
Yep.
It's like what do I do now? Like, come on. So, but
Well, brother, you're answering all your own questions.
yeah, I know.
That's quite an
know.
investigation.
I know.
It's a
I know
conversation.
what's going on. Yeah.
Where in the Discord chat is I didn't even realize there was more than one
Oh
thing.
no, Joe, this is a different Discord server.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you guys are all invited to, by the way. It's a great server. It's got support channel. It's got insights. You could share your insights, and
You could drop a link in the group chat.
yeah,
Like,
I'll drop a link. Yeah,
That'd be great.
because honestly, like, I don't know. We can take as many people that are willing to authentically, look at their experience and that wants truth. I think that would help out the server a lot. I think sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this, Dag, but sometimes it can be in the waters a kind of like, I don't know, getting stuck in your stuff and complaints, and there's like a lot of talk about stuff that we're all dealing with, but sometimes I don't see a whole lot of like people encouraging and empowering each other like we are here to like see your stuff and acknowledge that you're seeing, and that's good. And there's a whole other side to all of our stuff that I think is not as well covered as it could be on a Discord server. I think it'd help out a lot of people more. It could be much more empowering, and that's not to say that, hey, like, sometimes shit just sucks. Like, I felt that this morning, but like, if we didn't see this shit, we wouldn't even be able to say it sucks. It's important that we acknowledge that we can see all this stuff. And that's something that I've learned from Dan specifically. And Dan is on the Discord server. So he's a huge bright light, I would say, for a lot of people there. So
Yeah.
You can shine too, brother.
I know. Yes. And I'm starting to. I started to
I
notice,
see it.
like, hey,
I see it.
I can do that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Be sure to share the link. Oh, sorry.
I don't know
I will.
how, but you got into my head somehow as well that I'm starting to have this acknowledgement capacity more as well in myself and others, and
It's fucking great. It's fucking great because
so that our focus becomes more about the practice than the stuff. The stuff is there,
Yeah.
Like the weather, we're
Like the
more
weather.
interested in practicing. We're more interested in seeing. We're more
Yeah.
interested in accepting and letting go.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah. And so thank you, Dan. Again, I know I say thank you a lot, but thank you.
Always nice to hear.
Yeah, man. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, you came at me this morning on text, didn't you? And it all seemed pretty thick and meaty, and you've managed to see it off, so it seems.
Yeah, I didn't even do anything. It's kind of irritating.
Sounds
I didn't
like
do anything.
Yeah. Well.
That's the way, though. That's often the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what can you do about the weather?
Yeah.
You need to stop trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah, that you very, very easy, I'm sure, for you to let go of that little remaining echo of, oh, but there was something going on that I had to do something about.
Yeah. Now what is there? It's less of a charge, but I think what is genuine is I'm getting like there's like a hunger that's growing for real true investigation. Like getting curious about what the fuck is going on in there. Because Jesus Christ, it's like it's crazy. It's literally like crazy sometimes.
Yeah. 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 Now that sounds great. There was a little bit more there was a little bit more emotional charge in it when we spoke a little bit on text earlier, but that sounds like what the Buddha spoke about when he said to practice as though your hair is on fire.
Yes. That's exactly right. I'm sure you can relate to that one, Dag, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all relate. Oh, go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
No, I'm sure you guys all can. Yeah.
I go through this a lot because I have like chronic pain and chronic fatigue syndrome as well, and so I have a lot of quite unpleasant symptoms like all the time. And so the Dharma practice has really helped me because I've realized that the times when I just let go and let it be and get really interested, instead of just going up in all the stories and all the emotional stuff like sometimes it just goes instantly. It's amazing. Other times it's very persistent and gets worse, but it changes. And if you can watch it, and like you said, the practice like your hair is on fire. When I get a flare up, I'm like, okay, I've got to be on it like all day.
Yeah.
It's one of the most helpful things I've learned. Easier said than done sometimes. But when I can do it, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Very degrees of success and failure, right?
I so appreciate that. What's your name?
Olivia.
I'm Alex.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I have chronic fatigue syndrome too. I
No
just
way.
found out this year. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like been a goose chase to figure out what the hell is going on with my body. Did it take a while for you to find out?
Yeah, so I've had it I've been diagnosed for 3 years. And I've had the pain for like 15. And yeah, it's like the first year it was just a whirlwind. I mean, I didn't know about the Dharma or anything. It was just horrible. And then the second year I started to get someone, and then this year I really started to hone in on the kind of things that I think are the root causes. And a lot of this kind of my reaction to the symptoms is a big one. You know, when I get into that emotional turmoil about it and all those negative thoughts and thinking I'm never going to get better. I mean, it just gets awful. So
yeah,
that's a really big one for me. Yeah. But I mean, if you wanted to have a chat about it sometime, Alex, one-on-one, then I'd be more than happy.
Yeah, no, me too. We should, because like a lot of doctors are very unaware. You know, a lot of them write it off as like, you know, they lump you into a general category. They send you to physical therapy. You know, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
and
I
chronic
totally
fatigue
get it.
syndrome. I mean, it's not a diagnosis. It's just you feel shit all the time. Now go. Like it's like they don't tell you the root causes. And my doctor literally said to me, he was very nice about it. I know some people get really bad doctors. He was very nice, but he just said, look, there's nothing I could do for you. You know more than me, so be on your way. Good luck, kind of thing. And it was like,
that's what I hear from
great.
a doctor.
Yeah, like he's right. I do know a lot more than he did about it. But like, I was just
At
like,
least he's honest.
Like,
There
that's
was
what I thought.
literally a question mark
Some
over his
doctors,
head, right?
because they want an answer, but at least he was honest. But
Yeah.
yeah, and it's the same with the pain. They're like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing I can do. Off you go. You can only manage it. That's what they say. All you can do is manage it, and that's it. You've got it for the rest of your life, which isn't true. Like, I know personally several people that have got fully well, fully recovered, and it's just bullshit. But they just don't.
Really?
It's very disempowering. Yeah, but.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
what
I
about
didn't know
the
you could
interest
actually
you-
recover.
Yeah, I've got a few friends who have.
That's more than one person talking on the video call is going to keep happening. Alex, it
Yeah.
might interest you to know that Olivia's father is an Alexander Technique teacher. Now, I assume, Olivia, you had some work from your dad. Yeah. So Alex and I've filled Alex in on all the training that I've had. And indeed, Olivia's dad trained with the same trainer.
Wow. Oh my God.
Because I know
Awesome.
that we've kind of spoken about you maybe trying to find someone in the States, but bye, Rick.
Yeah.
See you, Rick.
Bye,
Bye, Ian.
guys. Thank you so much. Good to
Yeah, it
see
was
you
great
all.
seeing you.
Bye.
Good to see you
Bye.
again, Rick.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, how I'm curious now, Olivia, how has the Alexander work impacted your symptoms?
So, it's a bit more complicated than a one-word answer, but
Sure.
yes, it's been positive. So I had, and it also hasn't at the same time because of my own blocks. So I had quite a few months of lessons from a really good Alexander Technique teacher in Exeter, because I wanted someone that wasn't my dad. Like sometimes when they're close to you, it doesn't work so well, I felt, and I wanted a kind of a different teacher. So I've had quite a few lessons, and then Dad would kind of top me up sometimes when I wanted it.
Cool.
And we'd chat about it and everything.
Yeah.
And I had quite amazing experiences with her because of the pain and stuff as well. And I think, but I found it difficult to be able to do it myself. There's been so many blocks there that I would just get frustrated with myself, because it just felt like every time I tried to practice, I would get into that end gaining and trying too hard, and then it would just get worse. So I was just getting in my own way all the time. And so I've left it alone at the moment, just because I realized it's just tying myself in knots.
Sure.
But I want to come back to it because I know it's really powerful, and I think it is one of the keys for me. Definitely. It's just learning how to let go. It's so simple.
Yeah.
But it's the core of all these things.
Yeah.
And I want something to do, and I want a specific technique, and I want someone to give me like 6 steps to this. And then
That's me to a T. That's me to a T. Ask Dan.
That's why we're in this mess.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just funny, isn't it, how these really simple things like just learning to let go and trust takes years, well, at least me, to even get my head around.
No, I mean, it's such a common story that you're sharing, Olivia. I mean, no, I see everyone here smiling, and certainly everyone I've ever spoken to about Dharma or Alexander stuff or both has found precisely that struggle. And it's because we're trained to grasp and cling and do and want.
And because my dad, he's quite good at both of them. And so we joke, because he's like, I'm just going to keep telling you the same things, Olivia. I'm just going to keep giving you the same speech, and you're not going to get anything new from me. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's a good dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are trained, and in our most formative years, do all of those things that are bad for us. And of course, it's not that we want to get doing out of the way entirely. What we're after, of course, is balance.
Sure, but you think of our education system, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so fishy.
Yep.
I mean, it really not messed me up in like a really awful way, but like it really did not work for me at all. It really
Yeah. Me neither. And I
crushed my
suspect-
curiosity, I think.
Yeah. Curiosity is out the window. All that stuff about
And creativity.
right answers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all crap all over the mainstream education system. However, aren't we lucky that we can actually steer that ship around?
Yeah, of
Find
course.
these
Yeah.
other resources for self-education.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've learned 10 times more in the last 3 years because I can't work at the moment and I can't do education because I'm just too ill.
Yeah.
And so it's been 3 years of kind of just this internal learning and learning about myself and what the fuck is going on, really. And it's just been this massive deep dive, and I've hated it sometimes, but I love it other times, and I just think it's such a gift, really. It's amazing. And I'm just trying to, and I'm literally undoing everything I've learned in the past 24 years.
Yeah.
It's like, well, here we go, just undo it all.
Congratulations.
So
That's
funny.
striving to learn all that stuff, and I don't even want it anymore.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's an abundance of gratitude for you already, Olivia, but certainly I'm imagining that at that wonderful moment when some kind of relief is enjoyed from your symptoms. Yeah, I think I hear already that you wouldn't have it any other way, perhaps apart from the symptoms. Perhaps you'd rather...
Yeah, but the symptoms of the teacher, really, as cheesy as that sounds, they are. That's what drives it. And so there's days when I'm not peaceful and I hate everything and I'm in a really bad mood.
Yeah.
But underlying, I always come back to that place I am grateful. And I don't want to go back to the person I was. So it's still good, really. Sorry, it's gone. You need to...
Yeah. I
think we're getting some background voices.
Yeah.
From someone.
I doubt you could if you tried, Olivia.
No, I couldn't. I've seen it now. I can't see it.
Dhammarato told me once of an analogy that's used with the student in the Dhamma is like a cup that falls from a shelf. And there's the case where the cup is chipped so that the cup will never be the same again and can't quite hold so much of that old stuff, that old dukkha.
Yeah.
And
It's very interesting. Sorry.
Then there's the case that the cup is completely smashed.
Let's smash the cup.
And can't hold even an ounce of that old stuff. And of course, we're not talking about physical symptoms or even mental states here. We're talking about the dissatisfaction. Right? Not the content, but the dissatisfaction specifically. No cup for dukkha.
No.
No.
And
Have
then at
you
the
all
very
found
end, you.
since... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Since you kind of started this kind of journey, I suppose you could call it, your friendships have shifted and changed with people. Like, have you left people behind and gained new ones? Because I feel like I'm in quite a odd transition stage at the moment, and it's a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
I don't have any of the same friends that I had like 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I managed to keep one.
Yeah, I guess I have my online friend that
Right.
but he's also kind of into spirituality and stuff. His journey has kind of followed the same as mine, but otherwise everybody else I don't know, I've just completely grown away from in a good way, you know.
Yeah,
because
sure.
once you wake up a little bit, then you realize where it's leading, and it's kind of like this is not really yeah, you need to be around, like I like being around you guys, you know, like this is what is needed for me, you know, to hear you guys talk, to get reminders constantly over and over again when I don't remember myself. You guys are there to do that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had my former roommate literally tell me that she wants nothing to do with me anymore because she can't handle the shit and there's way more important things out there than finding yourself.
Wow.
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 Oh boy.
And funnily enough, of course it hurt a bit, but somewhere was like, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, of course it hurts at the time, of course, but you got to let people do their thing, and if they can't see it, then.
But it was funny. I before for a while we weren't that close, but when we moved in together a few years ago, we were friends like from university still, and I had seen numerous times where I was like, man, this woman could really benefit from some of the shit I'm dealing with, like from some of the approaches. And I had brought it up like once or twice, but her reactions had always been very defensive. So eventually I stopped. But yeah, that was quite something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the transitions, I think, as you put it, Olivia, that can be perhaps a little painful, perhaps a little confusing.
Yeah.
But I think that you can see that it's all for the best. I certainly remember having less and less in common with old friends. And of course, in my other life, I'm a musician, and musicians love to party, and I had less and less desire to party. And so those friendships lost their fuel, is what it was like. Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to continue on that line a little bit and just say that one thing that's happened for me, though, is I don't have as much of a like the friendships that I have. It doesn't become such a life or death thing, and the sort of like the enemies or whatever that I have in life, it also doesn't become as much of a life or death thing. That there's a detachment both ways, and when my practice is going well, then it tends to be that, you know, I can just be in the situation, and wherever I find myself, I'm like, okay, well, here's the situation I find myself in. But naturally, my body like seeks out a more peaceful environment and more peaceful places. But when I find myself in stressful environments, it doesn't stress me out the same way at all. Like it's almost crazy now that I used to have a real problem with anger, and when I get into situations that used to just like trigger me like instantly, I just like I feel it for a second, but then I don't react, and I almost watch myself, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be angry. Like your body is supposed to be angry. What's going on? What has changed here? This is something to really get fired up about. And my friends that knew me back then have noticed this too, and they're like, you've lost your passion. This meditation thing, it's completely killed your passion for life. And I'm like, no, totally the opposite. You know,
Congratulations.
like I just see everything as awesome, you know, in that. Yeah, but anyways, this is just what has happened for me over time. But I recognize what you're saying, that there is that transition phase that can be
Yeah, I think what people see an absence of could be called passion. I think that's a tidy word to pin on what falls away. Passion, meaning we're not looking for experiences to give us satisfaction anymore. Right? So everyone else is getting super hyped up about going to the bar, like it's the best thing ever, because it's gonna fulfill something in us when we have that passion. We really believe that. I'm gonna go to the bar and I'm gonna poison myself, and that's gonna make me feel fulfilled. So much so, in fact, that I'll put up with the hangover tomorrow, and it'll all be worth it. Honest.
That is
honest.
so funny.
Honest,
so
it'll
funny.
really be worth it. Really, really, it will. Really. And that's how we convince ourselves. And as you're saying, Joe, then so too the opposite is true. We also don't, as much as we there's not that charge in those experiences that can clearly be seen to have their negative side. So too, we're not looking to our Dharma friends to do anything for us.
Yeah.
Right? That we're not coming here seeking thrills. We're not coming here seeking pleasure. We understand indeed that what we're here to discuss is how to generate satisfaction for ourselves, or better still, to relax into it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because it's that neediness. There doesn't feel like there's that neediness there.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can trust the other person. They're like, I'm going to look after myself. And I take responsibility for myself. And then I'm like, yeah, and I'm going to do the same. And then you can have such a more wholesome connection and a true connection.
Yeah.
Instead of this push and pull all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm feeling with one of my friends, is that he's not in a very good space at the moment. And he just keeps on trying to dump all of his shit on me and expects me to help him all the time. And it's so heavy, and especially with fatigue as well. I'm just like, I can't deal with this. And that's what he wants to do all the time. And then complains when I can't do that. And it's just,
and hey,
it's not going to work.
I'll bet you've given him some great suggestions as to how he might help himself, Olivia.
Don't even start. He gets so defensive. Defensive, and so, I couldn't do that. And he's like one of the fittest and healthiest people I know. And he's like, I couldn't do that. I'm like, you're so intelligent. Why are you doing this? It's so annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Doug?
Yeah, for me, I was reminded, Olivia, when you shared that. For me, it's a bit of a bit the other way, or not the other way around even, but I have a few friends, or especially one lately, one of my most longtime friends. We've been friends for, I don't know, since primary school, and this guy has suffered so much in his life, and I'm like, man, all the stuff that I'm dealing with, or the approaches that I've come across, they could really help him if he chose to take on this path. And I sometimes feel that maybe I'm mad projecting here. I sometimes feel that there's even a kind of a call for help in our conversation, and we've done some light. I'm not proficient in it, but I've dabbled around with some light coaching here and there, and I think because he has suffered so much, he would be a prime candidate to eventually stumble into the Dharma and the approaches presented therein. But I'm like, is he ready? Is he willing? And that's something that he'll have to decide for himself and go walk through that door himself if he chooses to.
Yep.
And but he knows well, and I've told him that in this exact way, that if he does decide so, then I'll be waiting there, and countless others as well.
Great. And that's the best you can do for him right now, Doug. Yeah.
It's kind of showing that you're there, and then you can just take that step back and give them the space. I think that's all you can do, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And indeed, Olivia, you can step back from this friend of yours with a clear conscience as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of what I'm doing. I mean,
yeah.
We started drifting because a couple of months ago he just said some things that really pissed me off, and I told him that he did. I got quite angry, which I don't normally do, and he wasn't used to that side of me. And looking back, it probably wasn't the best way, but you know, things happen. And yeah, he just responded so badly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just wouldn't kind of own it and apologize or anything. So we just left it really.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Alex?
Yeah. So it's good to share because you guys are all sharing about your experiences with being with other people and friends. Like the thing that has been, I think the thing has been challenging for me is that I don't know. I feel like, so I have this guy who I would consider my best friend. And usually what we would do is I'd go over to his house and we'd get some food and then we'd watch a horror movie. Something I just love keeping updated on the latest horror movies. And it would be like this, no, it would be like this thing that I'd really look forward to and exciting. And every time we would come together and have that experience, it'd be really something special. And, you know, we would, if we weren't hanging out on that night, we would be talking about when we would do it again. And it seems as though in my mind, before whatever awakening experiences I've had, it was like, there was like some like reality to that. Like it was like really, there was like special, there's a special quality about being with my friend and having those experiences. And now when we do that, it just feels empty. It feels like I'm looking for a memory of something when we're together. And it's like, I can see inside, like if you could imagine there was all this stuff inside a shell and now the shell is like getting cleaned out and I can just like look around and see the shell all around me. I can turn around, I can turn it aside, like up, down, and I can see the whole shell, but it doesn't feel like it has anything to do with me. It's like an old thing. And he'll talk and I'll hear him talk and I'll just, I don't know if you have this where like you'll hear people talk and the point of view or the perspective from which they're speaking, it seems so controversial in a way to what is more objectively real or true, the things that we have seen through that people still believe as like entities that actually dictate how we think, how we feel, what we care about, what we don't care about. It's just, and sometimes I'll look at him and I'll just be like, I'll think of you, Dan. He'll say like, it's like 360, like you come first full circle. So sometimes I'll kind of just like try to bring myself to that space and be like, oh, okay, I could just appreciate like there's a difference in interests here, this and that. But I don't have this urge or this desire to hang out with him like I once did. And my girlfriend, you know, like we've spent a lot of time where we're just together all the time. And whenever she would talk about like going to parties or going to meet this person or that person, I genuinely don't want to. And it's very confusing because sometimes I wonder if I'm trying to like, if I'm tricking myself, because sometimes I think it's actually uncomfortable to go and be with large groups of people because I'm scared of how I'll be perceived, or it's like kind of I'm uncomfortable or I'm nervous around other people. So there's that piece to it. But there's also the whole piece of what I said about my friend Jeremy, but like with everybody. It's not just with him, it's with everybody. I'm just only talking about him because like he's the one that I most well know in my life. But when I go to a group and I see people and I hear them talking, it's literally sometimes like I'm just taking a deck of cards out and I'm just playing a card. Like, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna play this one. I'm gonna play this one. Like,
Yeah.
that was funny.
Yeah.
No, it really wasn't funny, but I'll laugh at it anyway. Or like, oh, that's interesting, or oh, tell me more about that. But I really had like no interest. I really don't care. It's like being interested while not being interested at all. It's being
Well, you don't
invested while not being invested at all.
you don't have
It's
I mean you don't have to be interested though, you know. I mean, like, you can just sit there and like I do that often when I'm in those situations. That I just sit there and just observe, you
and
know.
I do that
Not
too. No, yeah,
not
and
to cut off Doug also, who wanted to speak.
no,
No,
yeah,
yeah,
no, and,
yeah. I was just gonna say, in those situations, like, we can trick ourselves for sure. We can get into this sort of like, okay, now I'm spiritual. Now I like, I'm like, yeah, and then
exactly.
it can kind of be a weird thing because you're like, oh, which part of this is this? Is this the like the wounded child that's a little bit scared of being in public, or is this the like whatever the spiritual, and it can be a little bit weird there. But like when I hear you talking about you meeting with your friend, I think I hear you saying that you have expectations and you expect it to be a certain way, and maybe you can just go in the next time you meet him and just see what it feels like, because you don't actually know what it's going to feel like the next time. We never do. Anytime we meet somebody, anytime we're in a new situation, we never know. And you can go in completely fresh and allow it to be whatever it is, and not hold on to something from the past or think, it used to be like this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good point that you bring up. I think like something that ties into that for me is when I'm with him, there's this sense of this old Alex that is there in my mind too, the self-image that I'm expecting him to reflect back to me in a way, in how he listens and how he speaks. But I know that that is something I'm really not interested in maintaining or keeping up, or and also have not fully healed. So there's parts about that old Alex that I'm embarrassed about, or that I know deep down is not true, is not really it's not really say who I am. I know who I am, but like I think there's certain aspects in that friendship where I would even like abdicate my authority, or would trust his judgment over mine. And so, there's this whole pattern that our friendship has. He relies on me to be that way or a certain way.
You getting his kicks, right? If the base of the relationship is that you need one another, it's codependency, then indeed there's a need coming from the other side, we assume.
Right. And it's just like, well, wasn't sure where you're going with that, Dan. What do you mean?
You're talking about him reflecting an old Alex. And that might be part of what he feels he needs from that interaction. You're abdicating authority to someone, they might be getting kicked from being in a position of authority.
Exactly. Yes. Very good point. And I mean, there were times when like I was with him and another friend, and they like laughed at me when we were at a party, and it like totally derailed me. It totally like broke me. It hurt so bad. And I asked them both about it, and they said, we didn't mean anything by it, man. We're just like, oh, that's Alex. That's Alex's thing. And Jeremy has his thing, and Casey has his thing. But to this day, I don't know. I still feel as though I don't know. It just might be something that hasn't healed, something that I'm just really sensitive about.
I think there's a lot that's valid in what you're saying, and I can certainly reflect on experiences that I had where I felt somehow that my conditioning was triggered by being around certain people.
Yes.
Whose image of me was Dan, who has certain characteristics. And there I was practicing my little hiney off to get free characteristics. And then I'm back in the bear pit. Right, where to everyone else in the room, there's this Dan who exists.
Yeah. You're against the grain. You're against the grain. And here's the thing that is so hard is you or I have my own image that I think other people have of me, but they may or may not even have that. And so I'm also dealing with that too. It's like it's a weird, like, why can't you just be free, dude? Like, just fucking let it go. Like you like you don't know that they see you a certain way, so why do you act as if they do?
Well, indeed, and now
there is that.
Now you're speaking more in that full circle kind of place where you can come back to say, well, look, they can manifest how they want to manifest, and I'll just be over here not manifesting.
Yeah,
if I can manage it.
It just hasn't gotten to that point for me. It's still to the point where, like, if I'm with that person, I can see it. So that's good. I can see, like, acting. They're like, you're acting the part, you're acting the role. Like, I will see myself not wanting to reflect that self-image that I think they have of me, and then I will do it anyway. I'll see myself, like, I'll laugh at something that wasn't funny. I'll stare into their eyes pretending I'm listening when really I'm, like, uncomfortable and scared. Like, all kinds of things. So it's good to share, guys. It's good to share this stuff. It's so awesome. Like, when you truly feel safe in a space, your sharing becomes different. Like, what actually comes out becomes different because I trust that this is safe. And it's funny because I could do that with the whole world, but I don't. But I have a feeling that's what Sangha's for. It's a vehicle to eventually expand. So.
And how nice is it that
lovely.
I had never met any of, like, three of you before this call, and yet we can just dive, like, straight into it.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Isn't
That's
it
crazy?
Yeah.
Instant.
Yeah.
I mean, I've often been like that with people. I'd be the kind of person that would meet someone at the pub and then just dive, like, straight into what's the meaning of life kind of thing. And I'm just kind of like that. But, like,
yeah.
It's nice to be able to do it with a group of people. It's normally one-on-one for me. So.
Right. Yeah. Doug?
Yeah, I've actually, Alex, what you were saying, for me, it's I could kind of relate. For me lately, I've realized that when I met with people that were either talking to me or talking amongst themselves, and I was just sitting there listening to the conversations, I've realized that there was kind of a narrative, or not even a narrative, but a voice in my head, at least, being like, man, I'm just out of all that shit indefinitely.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
when they talk about just everyday shit or politics or whatever, things that are maybe even relevant, even if it's things that I still consider okay, they aren't irrelevant at all, but I feel so much I'm so engulfed in different things right now, and in a way also in my own weird maybe you could call it like at least pseudo non-dual bubble here, that, and it's so all consuming a lot of the time that the only reaction I have is like, okay, man, I'm like, like the dude in The Big Lebowski. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. And it's been weird sometimes, but I think I've had that with certain subject, at least for a lot of my life already, that I was like, man, what are people making such fuss about with these things? Why are they treating them as if they're the most important things in life? But it's only intensified and gotten broader with regard to what's being talked about. And actually, at least so far for me, there's a kind of sincere hope that I'll come back around to at least being able to join in such conversations again if I choose to, and make some like constructive or meaningful contribution to it if I choose to. Also with regard to this like whole full circle thing. But I find myself more and more in the situation that right now I'm like, man, I'm just out of that for now.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so I realized that what I'm actually talking about with this full circle thing is precisely form is emptiness and emptiness is form. And the shape of a circle is appropriate because we begin, of course, in hardcore form. That's what we're trained into. Discovering the practice is emptiness. Let me hang out here for a while. What's this about? Okay. Oh, there's like relief over here, and stuff gets trippy, and of course, yeah, you can end up then, and many do, perhaps a little far in the direction of emptiness, enamored with emptiness. And so we bring it full circle in the end. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form.
Yeah, I mean, I will just comment and say some of the monks that I've interacted with in my life, it's incredibly amazing watching them switch from talking about the deepest subjects that you can possibly think of to within 5 seconds, they can talk about the lightest thing ever. And depending on who they're with, it's like their personality shifts just like at the blink of an eye. And I remember this one guy that I was, and I was really talking about something deep, and then somebody else joined the conversation, and we just started talking about like something that I considered so worthless, where it was like the guy was from Tel Aviv. We were just talking about Tel Aviv and what the buildings were like there, and I was just sitting there like, man, I'm not gonna have so much time talking to this guy. I'm wasting my time like listening about this shit. But it really, I got kind of a lesson out of it though, where I was like, wait a minute, he is sitting here. Both are equally okay for him. Somehow he's okay with both. I'm not there, though. You know, I still have this sort of leaning more towards like wanting to talk about the emptiness and wanting to talk about the trippy experience. That's more where I'm at. But to see that it's possible is like that's where it potentially leads.
Yeah. Someone's got some background noise going on. Could you mute your mic?
Joe, I can kind of, this has brought me to something that I've seen happen for myself a bit. I think something that you said just resonated, because I've felt like this process in a way, at least when it comes to interacting with the world, is really a lot about becoming skillful at kind of shape-shifting, so to say. Like depending on where you're at, you can bring out the different facets of that you have kind of built, and then when they're not needed anymore, you can also just drop them again. But and it's kind of, I've kind of sometimes thought, man, this is really kind of about becoming a high-functioning sociopath.
Obviously that's humorous, and I can see where it's coming from. But that shape-shifting of which you speak actually is naturally arising when Dukkha Nirodha is our compass.
Yeah.
Right. When we're just acting on what benefits everyone right now, right? There's no effort involved. There might be some skill sometimes, you know, if you're managing like a large group of people or something, maybe there's some discernment to be done.
It certainly feels like there's some effort needed still on my part, but at least the part where you're like, oh, okay, now I gotta kind of circle back and remind myself to switch into this kind of mode if the goal is the biggest benefit for everyone. Doesn't go effortlessly like that yet.
Keep relaxing. I mean, I get tremendous benefit from our conversations, Doug. Now you might say, well, that's easy, you're Sangha. Right? Don't have to try, don't have to think about how I'm behaving, don't have to what? Well, again, when we bring it full circle, and indeed, Alex, you're talking about, well, hey, maybe Sangha is kind of like training wheels. Or can I just be this open and honest and free with everyone? Yes.
If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your parents.
Yeah. The ultimate test.
I have to live with mine.
Yeah. Yeah, but your dad is Sangha, Olivia. You're on
Yeah, my mum's really great as well. And my brother's really great. We all get on really well, so it's all good. But...
You're one of rare few.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah, isn't it?
Like having 3 adults in the house, and my brother's 17 now as well, so he's going to be 18 soon, and we still get on. You know, even through COVID. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a great gift.
Yeah. Really incredible. And I don't know your mother, of course, but I can certainly see your father playing a big role in that, in shaping the family and raising you guys well. And
yeah. I mean, my mum's the same. She's not as deeply into this, but she is still really interested in it. And yeah, my brother's just a laugh. So
great.
Good.
Great. I mean, well, and hey, I mean,
just constant sibling banter.
Great. And yeah, I mean,
that's awesome to hear.
A huge part of what we're talking about here, right? And also, just I'm kind of thinking about your mother as well, Olivia, and how the Dhamma being the Dhamma, it's entirely possible for someone to hear nothing about it and just relax into it very naturally and not have any language for it or what. Just a relaxed person is bathed in Dhamma.
Yeah, I think she's just absorbed it from us, and she's been interested in Buddhism and stuff for ages, so she's read about it and things. She does meditate and things, but yeah, no.
I like the image of someone who's just really fucking relaxed. And that's it, right? Doesn't have any language for it, does it, right?
That's how my dad was growing up. I had a dad like that. Yeah. He had no interest in meditation or anything like that. And I never got yelled at as a kid by my dad. Like I talk to other people and they have this image of like, they're follow the disciplinarian. And I'm like, the way you talk about your mom, that's how my dad is. Like, he always is there giving you a hug and like it was awesome. It was awesome growing up with that, and definitely influenced me, makes this stuff easier to remember. Wait a minute, I had all those years of training, because I mean, he would kind of send me out into the world too and be like, hey, don't take this school thing so seriously. Like one of the things that really stuck with me that he told me is he's like, don't work too hard. It was always his thing. Most people say, really work hard, but he could see that I was self-motivated a little bit, and he was like, don't work so hard. Just don't, you don't have to. Find a job that you don't have to like work so hard at, was his main advice for me. It was awesome.
The left, little to the right. Right? Because for the child who's unmotivated, that might be bad advice.
Yeah.
But seeing that you were self-motivated, your dad gave you the perfect advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's a cool point, Joe, where I can actually bring up something that I kind of meant to bring to the round tonight. It's something that I've been trying to wrap my head around, and maybe that's already the first mistake. Is and at then we've talked about this sometimes. It's this issue of how to bring together, like the on the one hand the wish and the aspiration towards more and more freedom, inner freedom, as in becoming less and less perturbed or disturbed by whatever circumstances you find yourself in. And on the other hand, keeping up some kind of, maybe you could call it motivation, because I again and again find myself in the situation where I'm like, okay, so far I couldn't imagine working a dead-end job for the rest of my life, and so far I'm still in the very fortunate position of having financial support coming from my family. But I again and again find that I would like to, when that's not the case anymore, and I gotta see where my own bucks are coming from. I really would like to do it in a way that I genuinely enjoy, preferably by just doing something that I do anyway, just because it's an enjoyable thing. And I still don't quite know how to get these two things together, because I feel like that this faculty that I have, that at least used to be responsible for some kind of aspiration or motivation, is becoming deconstructed more and more.
Yeah.
I've also struggled for a while already with the general motivation issues. Like, there's only really sometimes I feel there's only really few things I even do on just naturally. Some things have stuck, but there's except for this whole internal process, there's not much that I'm kind of very fascinated or obsessive about right now. And maybe that's how it needs to be. Maybe in my case it's more like become free first, and then you'll see what's left, and it all will fall into place.
Well, indeed, what's left, and Joe, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I just want to speak to this while it's in the air, is the question as to what motivation is. Is motivation something that we must rustle up? Could it be that there's a naturally arising motivation that is indeed what's left in the absence of all of these mental constructs?
Yeah, I don't see that so much lately. There's on those times where I feel better. There's sometimes some things arise. But
so some glimpses, some evidence.
Yes, there is.
That there might be some kind of motivation that remains in the absence of all of the kinds of contrived motivations that we're trained into.
Yeah. And still, at least statistically, so far, most of the time, I'm still a lot of wrapped up in all the shit that's happening on the inside, which just takes so much energy and time that there's not much left more for other creative endeavors.
Yeah, and we wouldn't expect a naturally arising motivation to arise whilst we're still in our own way.
Yeah.
So in a sense, there is a kind of a trust element here, although I would immediately replace any element of trust with the element of evidence that you have seen in those glimpses when there's been more space, that there has been a naturally arising motivation. And indeed, a naturally arising motivation is going to involve the kinds of things that are going to be enjoyable.
Yeah, and one of the things that I see this with pretty consistently is the relationship I'm currently engaged in, and it seems that the driving force behind it is just the inexplicable love I feel for this person, which just makes the things that I do happen.
And there's a good example of something that's naturally arising.
Yeah,
right? We can't fool ourselves into love. We can't dream love up.
No.
Out of nothing, right? Joe?
So I wanted to comment about, it was a little bit back, but when you were talking about trying to figure out things, and I think it's good to remember that we all are in this situation constantly of trying to plan out like how things are going to work out and set up our lives in a certain way. But the Buddha, has good advice here. I think in the Metta Sutta, he says, this is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness. It goes on a little bit, and he gets to a part where he says, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways. And I think that that's something that really speaks to me, is that trying to create a life where you're unburdened and frugal. Those are very easy ways to get to right livelihood. And it can be a different way of looking at it, instead of thinking, all right, I need to pick the right job that is going to do this for me. But remembering, hey, the bus driver can be really a really good, happy, practitioner. We need that in the world. We need the bus driver to have the person walk onto the bus and say, hey, how's it going? And that can be an option. Yeah. Because I've gone down the path of trying to follow what I was passionate about multiple times, and it definitely can be burdensome, like trying to run your own business or trying to start your own thing. It's extremely burdensome compared to just picking something just to be able to get by just a little bit. And just an example from my dad again. I mean, he worked in a factory. I mean, he worked in a glass factory. He moved glass from one part of the line to the other all day for 30 years. Wow. And that was just what he did, Wow. But the thing is he got to come home at the end of the day. He had good benefits, and he didn't have to work overtime, and he didn't have a boss on his ass. And so, there are other benefits there as well. So that can be something to think about, because I don't know. Sometimes we can get stuck in this, like, I need to set up the perfect life for myself. And I'm stuck in that right now, I feel like, in where I'm at in my life. Because it's such a big pie in the sky of like, yeah. I can just set my life up so I wake up at 6 and meditate for an hour and then do what I love to do, and then spend time with the friends that I love, and my life will be perfect. And instead to realize, oh wait, but it's already perfect right now. Like, exactly now it's perfect.
I've had this. It's an interesting perspective, and I spent quite some time, at least sometimes, on toying around with all this, because not like last year I started to do like an online course, and I think it's quite nicely made. That is actually grandly titled like a life purpose course. But the dude who made this, part of this course, for example, is also like detachment from outcome. So learning to, even if you follow something quite consistently, not getting too hung up on, I have to get it to this point to, or this or another point to that it's successful or not. But I can see the principle behind it, like doing things that you just really enjoy doing, and learning how to also make a living with that really speaks to me. I remember as a kid, I was I spent hours and hours building Legos or whatever, and there was so much fun passion in it, and sometimes I feel that I ask myself, where is that gone, man? I sometimes feel it flare up with these kind of topics that we now talk about, the deep dive shit. There's some of the few passion, if I feel it there, it lies there. And that's what I spend much of my time on anyway. Sometimes it feels like even if I want to or not, I gotta deal with the shit that comes up now. But yeah, that's it. It really speaks to me when I consider this image of really just having a thing that you can follow kind of effortlessly in a way, and that also contributes to making a livelihood. And then again, I can also see, at least if you approach it in a certain way, I can see the bondage that can present. So it's a very, very tricky topic for me to wrap my head around.
It's always a mixed bag. Always. You will never find the perfect thing to do. I think you're probably aware of that.
Yeah.
But also, importantly, the enjoyment is not found in the things. The things themselves, the circumstances themselves, have no power to make you enjoy yourself. And of course, the wonderful flip side to that is neither do they have powerful to make you miserable. It's all in here. So that Joe's dad is happy in the glass factory, while others are off chasing their passion.
Yeah.
I've wondered there's the flip as well. There's the miserable person on the factory line, and there's the guy who's really found something that he just loves to do, and maybe he's loved to do it since childhood. We see all these passionate musicians, don't we? Artist types seem to fit that stereotype very well. Oh, they live for it, they love it, they're so passionate, right? That whole thing. I can certainly tell you that music is a mixed bag. The few friends of mine who were able to make a living as performers and not have to supplement their income with teaching, very often we would all be at a barbecue, say on a Sunday, and they'd, oh, I can't play a fucking gig. Now, none of the audience sees that.
My advice is don't be a farmer. I've been a farmer for a while, and don't do that.
Hard work.
Yeah. It's more the mental stress. It's not the physical hard work. If all it was me having to be out there doing hard physical work, I would love it. That's what I thought farming was. But it's actually it's quite a lot more than that. It's a lot of things that are not really what you picture. And a lot of selling, like a lot, I didn't really realize how much you'd have to do like marketing and stuff. And like that becomes your main job, and you're mostly selling an image of yourself and some weird thing going on. And it's
And I've also really wondered how much of all this kind of aspiration was conditioned into me without me even being aware of it from very, very young age. I just know sometimes I remember this that I had a few things, especially as I was a kid, where I had so much fun doing them, and there's I realize this, or I see this longing for getting into such a state again where you get out of bed in the morning excited as hell because you're gonna do that thing, whatever it was, and then being able to do that and know like, oh yeah, and I'm just doing this, and everything kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, now there's another ghost in here, and Alex, I'll come to you, mate. Which is, there seems to be the idea in this that if you could find that thing, maybe it will stay that way forever.
That might be, yeah. You got me there.
Is that where you were going to go, Alex? No, you're muted.
Oh, no, that wasn't where I was going to go.
Okay.
But I love that you said that, though, because
Right.
did you want to say any more about that, though, Dan? No. Doug, I relate to you so much, man. That is something I was talking about a lot with Dan, actually, like about probably maybe almost a year ago, like when I had just started having, because like, okay, so for me, since high school, I've been like changing careers. I would like change it like once a month. I would come home and I'd be like, I want to be a firefighter. Next month, I would come home. I'd be like, I want to be in the FBI. Next month, I'd come home. I would start watching the show Dexter. I'd be like, oh, I want to be a forensic scientist. And like, I saw like, you know, I was fascinated with these things, and I would start researching them. And there's like this buzz. It was almost as if the buzz and the fascination about these things was better than the actual thing itself. Now, I can't know for sure because I never did those things. I never became a firefighter. But, you know, if I'm honest with myself, there was like schooling involved. You know, there was all these math classes I would have to take if I was going to be in the FBI. You know, I'd have to do all this work, and I just never did any of it. I was more happy with researching. I was more happy with finding out, like, ooh, what's it going to be? What's my new job going to be like? What's my dream job going to be like? And I enjoyed that, I think, more than I probably would have enjoyed the job. And I think at some point, after chasing down enough, like the last thing it stopped on was acting. And so I auditioned to be an actor in this school, and I got in, and then I did that for 4 years. And like 2 years in, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore, but I graduated anyway. And I just started noticing, I was like, these decisions that we have about these things that we call our passions can so obscure the actual thing itself, to the point where we will kind of bargain, we'll be willing to kind of make a transaction with temporary gratification for a little bit of dissatisfaction. What I mean by that is, like, I would love acting, right? But there were certain parts about it that I just couldn't stand. Before we started a new show, I would have a new character, and with this new character, I would have to create all of these backstories that connected to the emotional life of the character, so that when I came out on stage, I was going to look like a three-dimensional living, breathing being that's affected by circumstances rather than just someone reading off of a script. And there was a lot of imagination I had to do, a lot of just unbelievably unnecessary hard work. I think that's what I look at. That's how I look at it now, at least. Yeah, as someone that's learning to accept my emotions and feel things as they are and let them go. Acting just sounds absurd, because that's kind of what acting is. You're swimming in the pond of emotions. You're creating them, recreating them, trying to get them to come out in certain moments so that they look just right. It's all a show. And
literally,
it is literally. And now when I see actors on the TV, I'll be like, oh, I see what they did there. Oh, and it's like, ooh, maybe I'll enjoy doing that again. But I still can't bring myself to do it. It's so, I get what you're saying, Doug. I think it's very confusing, because I think when we have these feelings of fascination and passion, and then we start to do the thing, or we think about doing the thing, and we realize, oh, I'm not as motivated to do that as I thought. It's very confusing, because it's like, wait a minute, but I was pretty sure I was interested. Why am I not doing it? Oh, well, maybe just something hasn't clicked yet. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just that it's a mixed bag, like what Dan's saying here. And it's like, it may never, you know,
or maybe it's not in our nature to have a job, is the other thing. I wish Dhammarato was here, because he talks about this all the time. Like, when I get on these things and he's like, maybe we just don't need a job. And I always come out of that and I'm like, what the hell? But what am I supposed to do then? But what am I supposed to do? You know?
Well, we have had, haven't we, Alex, exchanges around go to the monastery, right? If you don't want a job, that option is available to all of us, but of course, we don't take that option. But it changed
And
that
that's a
whole
job
dialogue
too.
around jobs, didn't it, Alex? Because then now you're choosing to be in the world.
Yes, exactly. And
Right.
like, I guess for me, you know, why I came to this whole path, it's a reason. It might not even be true, but it's the only one I can think of, is that I just got so sick and tired of the disappointment that I would inevitably face every few years. Every few years of chasing some new passion, some new, like, the last thing after that, it was personal development. And I was going to personal develop myself to the moon, man. I was going to be the most personally developed person in the world. I was going to love people. I was going to make a difference in people's lives. Man, I was going to take the whole empire with me. And like, eventually at some point I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm miserable. I'm done. I'm still not the person I wanted to be for the past few years. It never came. That satisfaction never arrived. It's always coming and going. What is this shit? And then that's when I looked on Google and I was like, how to end my suffering. I literally looked on Google like, how to end my suffering. And I found Artem on Quora, and it's funny when I tell this to like strangers, people think I'm like talking about suicide, but I'm not. I actually mean,
how do I end my suffering, right?
yeah. which is kind of really funny if you think about it, and sad, because that's how we think we can end our suffering. Isn't that's how warped we all are? We think the only way we can end our suffering is by killing ourselves. That's what that automatically means.
Yeah.
But I still
Alex,
don't. Yeah.
a helpful way to think about some of the things you're talking about in terms of careers that look appealing and turn out not to be so much. There are kind of two things that I bring up is that most things nowadays are kind of a bait and switch. When you talk about seeing a CSI movie, that's kind of the bait, right? It's kind of getting you in there. And then the switch is actually seeing the actual lifestyle of things. Joe talks about it too, really great about the glass manufacturer, right? There isn't much bait there in being, there isn't much marketing around that. It's not like a exciting job. But if you can see through the bait, if you can see through the appeal of certain jobs, the kind of high that you talk about before you you can see through it. You can look more at the lifestyle and look for employment for the lifestyle of things rather than chasing that passion that you've been baited into following.
No, and that was actually where I was going to go next. Like, I ended up just, I don't know, something I would actually say it's a natural arising motivation was I had an interest in getting better at sales. Because I had this weird, crazy idea that, well, not even that. I felt like it's still my life, right? It's still our life. We still get to do what we want in our life. Even though we're all spiritual, we can still do things. If we want to go to Mars, we can go to Mars. If we want to, pick up this girl, we can go pick up that girl. We will. If we want to, have this experience, we can. And one of the things that I think I wanted was to be good in sales.
Yeah, if you just substitute the word want for like.
Or like, yeah.
Right, but there's there's that quality of being picky with language, right? But the difference being in wanting, we're not okay, don't get it.
Yeah.
Right, but yes,
going to Mars is a lot of work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Going to Mars is a lot of work. You can like it, but know that I'm too lazy to try and get to Mars.
Yes, exactly.
There's an interesting book on this monk who he became like a diamond salesman. He disrobed, and he was told to he was told by his teacher, hey, it's time for you to go back into the world. He's a Tibetan monk. I can't remember the name of the book, but yeah, he gets involved in the diamond world, and becomes like a multi-millionaire selling diamonds, and gives it all away to charity. Obviously, since he has reached some level of enlightenment. Or it's a really interesting book, anyways. But
That's right.
it just talks a lot about this sort of thing that you're getting at of like, hey, I can still live in the world and do something, but not have this attachment to what I'm doing.
Yes.
That both can,
Yes.
that it is possible. I'm not
Yeah.
there for sure. Like I get way too attached to my job and everything going on with it. But yeah, it's possible. So yeah.
Guys, I know we could continue all night, but this body needs sleep.
Yeah, me too. I was gonna leave actually. I was so tired.
Yeah. Guys, great chatting. If any of you continue, by all means. I don't know what happens when I end the call, but I would hope that it would allow any of you who want to continue to continue.
Dan, before you head off, your insight timer talks are really wonderful. I was curious if you had the audio files in like a place that would be easy for you to send over so they could be put on a YouTube channel.
Oh, I'd love to, Parker. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're enjoying them. And I have at least some of them. So, yeah, I will find them and send them to you.
You got stuff on Insight Timer?
Very kind. Very kind. Sorry, Olivia?
You got stuff on Insight Timer?
Yeah, search Dan Goldfield.
Okay, I will.
It's really good.
Oh, great.
And what's the Discord channel? You guys never sent the link for that.
I'll send the link.
Okay, cool.
Or I don't know how to get the invite link, to be honest.
I think Alex has got it.
I'll post it for you guys.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great to see you all.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Great to see you guys.
Thanks for the input.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Have a good night.